Another intense storm system is forming for the central and eastern United States, including the potential of a severe weather outbreak as we head into Wednesday over the deep south, and then severe weather in the Ohio Valley and southeast as we head towards Thursday. There's other concerns out of this storm, including flooding as well as wind and more, plus we'll take a look ahead in this video, so stick around. As always, many of the maps that I'll be using throughout this video are from WeatherBell, so check out their free trial right down there in the description. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video and you're not already subscribed, to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you get consistent, accurate, and easy to understand forecasts right to you every time I post. Now, taking a look at the water vapor imagery here from our Tuesday, April 9th, 2024, we've got big thunderstorms that have been developing over parts of Texas, the Arklatex region there, a lot of the deep south and south central plains getting in on very juicy moisture coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, supported by that little spin you see there over in the desert southwest. All of that combining to bring this storm system that's going to evolve even more as we head towards Wednesday. That's the first thing I want to talk about. Of course, use the timestamps in the description to navigate to other parts of the video as well if you would like. For now, though, we're taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center's severe weather outlook as we head towards our Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. If you're in a risk zone, it can be anywhere from level 1, which is marginal, as seen on the key on the bottom, all the way up to level 5 high. We've got a lot of areas getting into the level 3 or level 4 zones tomorrow, and that's going to be as storms push from the southwest to the northeast, like I just drew with the arrows on screen. You can see some of the areas in that level 3 enhanced zone and the level 4 of 5 moderate zone for our Wednesday and Wednesday night here. A lot of this is going to happen during the daytime, so if you live in Alexandria, Louisiana, down over to parts of New Orleans, Baton Rouge, to Jackson, Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, all the way in over there to south central parts of Alabama as well. Everyone in these regions needs to be on very high alert, and if you're in any color, you have the potential for severe weather, including tornadoes. You can see here on your screen, all those numbers at the bottom in the key are within 25 miles of a point. Shreveport, Louisiana, on up to Memphis there in Tennessee, Nashville, you all have a 2% chance of a tornado within 25 miles of a point on Wednesday. That's a non-zero chance, means you need to be at least on somewhat of alert as we go throughout the day. But down here where we get into these 5%, 10%, even 15% zones within 25 miles of a point, especially in these dash line areas here into parts of Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southwest Alabama, and the western Florida Panhandle. That is where we're going to be looking at the potential for not only more widespread tornado potential, but also the chance that a few of these tornadoes could go on that EF2 to EF3 threshold, something we certainly do not want to see here. Severe weather season is obviously ramping up. We're also looking at a wind threat, which I think is really going to dominate tomorrow's risks as we have the potential for an MCS. I'll explain what that is here in just a minute. But you can see all the way on up here, I think it's some of these zones here into northern Mississippi, northern Alabama could get expanded to be included in this 30% zone, which is within 25 miles of a point for 58 mile per hour wind gusts or greater. But down here into parts of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, into south central Mississippi, southwest Alabama, where that threat is focal for not only tornadoes, but also damaging winds like you're seeing on screen, that's where we've got the 45% chance of those damaging winds. And in fact, we're looking at that hatch zone indicated by the SPC with those dash lines on screen. That's where we could locally see some hurricane force wind gusts. The winds are moving at very high speeds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and the mid levels like we're seeing here flowing out of the southwest according to the European model, and pretty much all models agreeing on this little jet stream energy making its way through the deep south and eventually towards the east over the next couple of days. That combined with this low level jet right above our heads, that is certainly due to increase the severe weather potential, as again, these circled areas really looking at a 40 knot or a greater low-level jet as those winds are coming out of the south and maybe even south-southeast closer to the surface, moving towards that low-pressure center. But we've also, of course, in the upper levels of the atmosphere and the mid-levels, those winds coming out of the southwest, the crossing of those winds. Obviously, it sounds like it's going to create rotation, and that's exactly what it does here. So it's really not too complicated of a science, as those winds are really going to be combining there and creating the potential for tornadoes, gusty winds, as the storm energy, which is measured in joules per kilogram here, makes its way towards the north. Don't really focus on joules per kilogram and what it means. Just look at the bottom key. You can see it goes all the way from 0 to 6,000. You know, anything above about 500 to 1,000 is sufficient for severe weather. In the hatch zones for severe weather tomorrow by the afternoon, we're looking at parts of Louisiana, Mississippi, getting close to around 2,000 joules per kilogram, locally higher of surface-based storm energy here. And you can see some of that will continue to push into Mississippi, Mississippi, Alabama, even towards Georgia as the evening and nighttime progresses. So let's time this out here using the HRRR model. This is one model solution. Doesn't mean it's going to play out like this, but odds are we're going to be having a training band of showers and thunderstorms over parts of northern Louisiana and into northern Mississippi and central parts of Mississippi as well. Some of these storms possibly severe as we go into the early parts of our Wednesday, but overall we're just looking at very heavy rain, a lot of lightning, and heavy rain causing the flood risk through those storms. Closer to the Arklatex border there, that's that Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas border, we'll be watching this little damaging wind line and an MCS, which is basically a storm complex that can even have embedded circulations within itself, and you'll see that really develop. This could be the initial stages of it over western Louisiana, also with some discrete cells out ahead of it that could produce tornadoes through the morning hours. I want everybody to be alert through the midday time frame here as this line segment continues to look very feisty, exiting Louisiana into parts of Mississippi sometime around midday. Even southern Arkansas needs to be on high alert. Again, anywhere here in these circled areas especially, looking like severe weather could get going throughout the morning and into the early afternoon hours around, say, 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Make sure you have a weather app, some way that you can get alerts sent directly to your phone when severe weather is potentially striking. Now, here's when we begin to see this MCS really show out a little bit more, and this is that embedded circulation in this. You see the comma shape to this storm line here, according to this model, as we head through the middle of the afternoon on Wednesday here. We're looking at those storms on the back end of that line, still potentially with supercell potential and tornado potential there into parts of Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and that is because this storm line is developing its own circulation within itself, and that would be somewhere over Mississippi. We could see that push on up through parts of Alabama, Georgia as the day goes on here, and as we head even towards the early evening hours of Wednesday. Also watching some storms that could try to refire back towards the west as the evening progresses. And again, the further north this MCS moves, that would be where we would get the potential for severe weather to even make its way on up towards Tennessee, and that's why there's a cautious, slight, and marginal risk that far north from the Storm Prediction Center from what I see. Now, your severe weather outlook as we head towards Thursday and Thursday night, we're not done with this event quite yet by that point. You can see we've got this one zone down here over parts of the Carolinas, the eastern parts of those states at that. Southeast Georgia, the Florida Panhandle. This is where we'll be watching gusty winds and maybe a low-end tornado and hail threat out of those lingering storms into the day Thursday, so probably through the daytime. That's when we'll have the highest threat there. Meanwhile, while that line continues, based on what I just drew out there, we're going to have the secondary line of storms that could develop over parts of the Ohio Valley and then progress towards the northeast quickly through mainly the state of Ohio and into western Pennsylvania. And I think the NAM model does a really excellent job of showing how this could pan out through the day Thursday. Morning convection over a lot of Georgia. The Carolinas, Florida might be briefly weakened just because of the lack of storm energy because there's no daytime heating quite yet. Once we get towards, say the midday time frame, the early afternoon storms pushing through the eastern parts of the states I mentioned a little bit ago, I really think our focal severe weather threat that's newly developing will be over here into northeast Kentucky, into parts of Ohio as we head through the afternoon, probably the early afternoon, some of these firing up, maybe as some supercells here Thursday. So again, keep this in mind, have a severe weather plan in place, know the lowest, most interior room of your home or building just in case, wherever you're going to be when these storms could move through. Anytime in the afternoon looking like these, will probably continue to head on off towards the north and east, maybe heading towards Cleveland and even Pittsburgh, PA, stretching back down there towards parts of West Virginia as we head towards 6, 7 o'clock on Thursday evening. Again, don't take these models as gospel. See them as a tour guide kind of taking us through the future, and obviously if you're trying to look at the future, not everything is going to be 100% correct. You could see here looking over the south central United States, I'm worried about this very heavy rain, especially into some of the same zones that could be seeing severe weather. And, many people who might have a basement, if your basement's going to be flooding and you're in a tornado warning, that's certainly a big concern that we could see here, and it could be very hazardous with 4 to 8 inches of rain locally there through some of these states, southern Arkansas, northern Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. So also be making a plan in case that could happen. Know which room you might want to go in there if you got a tornado potential warning in place in addition to a flash flood warning. Have a way to receive those alerts. Weather.gov is something you can always check for the latest alerts from your National Weather Service, but it won't send you notifications. Heavy rain progresses on up into the Great Lakes in 1 to 2 inch fashion as we head towards, late Thursday going into Friday. We'll also watch the East Coast for some local 1/2 inch to 1.5 inch totals. Some of the Florida storms could also be heavy as well. The flood threat really diminishing the further east you go, though. In terms of wind gusts and miles per hour here, let's use the European model to time these out. By the time we go towards Wednesday here in the afternoon, With that low kind of over parts of Arkansas, we're going to be seeing those gusts into southern Oklahoma. Central Texas, probably some wind advisories maybe getting issued for those 45-mile-per-hour gusts. Same goes on up there, Montana, into the Dakotas as well. We'll see some higher gusts. And eventually, these two areas of gusts are going to converge. You can see the beginning of that as we go towards Thursday. Look at this. A big swath from parts of the Midwest all the way on down there to the southeastern United States, seeing around 40-mile-per-hour gusts. Again, the key is at the bottom of the screen. You can find your local area on screen. And then, compare it with the key down there at the bottom to see exactly what your gusts are going to be near overall, according to this projection. So looking like a lot of areas in that 35 to 45 mile per hour range. So knocking on the door of a wind advisory there from the National Weather Service that could certainly get issued. We'll probably see that there in the southern New England shores, maybe even a high wind warning or two there closer to the shoreline out near Long Island, where we'll see some local, maybe 55 to 60 mile per hour gusts. And look at this, even towards Friday afternoon, still that wraparound flow in the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, a lot of 50-mile-per-hour gusts there, in at least some isolated fashion. A widespread 40-mile-per-hour gusts, though, it looks like, as we head towards that afternoon time frame, beginning to wind down as we head towards Saturday. I do want to talk about temperatures and the overall upcoming weather pattern as well, because obviously we don't just have a storm system going on. As we head towards Wednesday afternoon, we've got lots of 70s out ahead of the storm system in the southeast. I also want to point out that over the plains, it's very warm. We've got some southerly winds trying to progress on up through this region, 60s and 70s Wednesday afternoon, backing off a little bit as we go towards Thursday. But look at this, the southwest, places in Arizona now trying to get on up there into the 90s here. We've got lots of 70s and 80s elsewhere Thursday afternoon as well, over especially the south central United States, 60s on up into the Midwest and Great Lakes Thursday. As we go towards Friday, cooler in the Great Lakes. Remember, I was talking about those 40, 50 mile per hour gusts in that region. 50s for highs, not too bad. But into the parts of the high plains and the central Great Plains, Friday afternoon we'll begin to notice a warming trend there. That will only intensify Saturday afternoon with 80s as far north as parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Iowa, northwest Missouri. Lots of other areas here in the central and southeastern United States, keeping it very warm, and the only area being an exception is there in the interior northeast, even as we go towards Sunday there. Look at this, though. All these areas I'm circling Sunday afternoon, we're in the 80s, going on up into Virginia, knocking on the door of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio, but certainly through the central plains, we've got lots of mid-80s, even some 90s trying to get going there into parts of Texas. This is ahead of our probably next storm system that's going to get going into early next week. Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook here, which encompasses the 15th through the 19th, Monday to Friday of next week. We're looking at above average precipitation anticipated over the central plains, probably a storm system with new severe weather potential there. And look at all the warm air that's going to be out ahead of it. And during that same time frame, it's looking like a lot of areas in especially the south central, the Ohio Valley region, and the southeastern United States will be well above average in the temperature department. That means 80s and 90s and very steamy dew points. So this is the real first shot of maybe even early summer-like conditions here. We'll see how warm it goes, and we'll track that as we get closer. And of course, anything in the future. If you want to be with me for that, hit that subscribe button for more consistent, accurate, and easy to understand posts. That's it for this video. I hope everyone has a blessed evening. Stay safe. Whenever you're watching this, stay safe out there.
One Nation Weather.